Scott is a reformist. Anytime there is an issue, he's always trying to think, how do you think outside the box? How do you challenge the norm? And how do you make not just the legislature, but the state better? Scott and I have been friends since we were at the University of Hawaii together. And at that point in time, both he and I were involved with some level of student government. So student government and helping his colleagues and people who are going to the University of Hawaii as a student or faculty or any kind of relationship with the University of Hawaii was our goal to assist. And since then, I realized that this is a person who really cared deeply about not just the University of Hawaii, but what is going on in the state. The funny story is that Scott and I've been friends for a long time, and I was one of his campaign managers when he first ran for office. And one of the things that which was really interesting at that point in time was a discussion about same-sex marriage. And same-sex marriage, as you can imagine, back in 1996 or so, was not a popular subject. And from the top of the ticket all the way to some of the either legislative races or anyone running for office, there was deep fear on your opinion about same-sex marriage. And I remember very vividly that Scott was one of 4 people to vote against legislation to define a marriage between a man and a woman, marriage as a union between a man and a woman. And I remember at that point in time, that was so courageous, even under the guise that he might lose his race, because back then it was, as I said, it was not a popular issue, and it was not something that people took a stance on. And for him to take that stance, I remember that as, even now, I remember that as the kind of person he is, and how you need to look at public office as something that is sacred and of so much importance that you have to always stand up for individuals who don't have a voice, people who don't have an opportunity to have equal representation, in spite of the fact that you might lose your job or lose your race. And that's the kind of person he is, and that's the kind of person I try to be on a daily basis. Scott is a reformist. Anytime there is an issue, he's always trying to think, how do you think outside the box? How do you challenge the norm? And how do you make not just the legislature, but the state better? Going back to when he was in law school, one of the things that he did was he started what's known as a pro bono program, and that required every law student to do certain amount of required hours to do public service. And that's something that continues today, and that legacy should be attributed to Scott. He is a collaborator. He tries to bring sides together, bring people together. A good example is his Mauna Kea task force. Mauna Kea and the issue of TMT severely just separated and divided our community. And whether it was Native rights, whether it was land rights, how do you deal with something difficult as Mauna Kea? It would have been easy for the legislature to say, well, this is not within our kuleana, it's not within our jurisdiction. But Scott, through his leadership, was able to bring a lot of voices together and come to a compromise between all sides. And at the end, maybe not everyone was completely happy with the results, but what they were happy about was the fact that they sat at the same table with opposing sides and had a conversation.